Welcome today to Church Jesus. My name is Hugo Fernandez. I'm a pastoral care coordinator in an aged care facility. For the past few weeks, we've heard and spoken of forgiveness. I said forgiveness is discipleship. It takes a strong person to say sorry, but it takes a stronger person to forgive. This week again, we see God's forgiveness and mercy. In fact, God applies a familiar model of generosity, equity, and inclusion to the queue jumpers of today. Why, we ask ourselves, God is so generous with them. So we have 3 points to reflect on. Our first point is Jesus is facing an enormous hate campaign against him by the leaders, by the chief priests and elders, and by the Sadducees and Pharisees. He crunches out parable after parable to emphasize that we must forgive and be merciful because God's mercy and forgiveness, which is much greater than ours. After all, we are made in God's image. Genesis 1:27. In today's first reading, which is taken from Ezekiel, is an echo of what we saw last week of the unfairness of God. Why does God punish with death the one who has lived a life of virtue and then falls to sin? And why is life granted to the wicked who had turned away from sin? So, why is God so generous? So my point 2 is, this is a question that Jesus takes up in the parable in today's gospel. The first son represents the well-known sinner of Jesus' day, the tax collectors and prostitutes. And let us not forget the lepers, the poor, the widow, the unemployed, the homeless, the incarcerated, the hungry, who by their sin, or what people thought that they had sinned, they are the ones who first refuse to serve the Lord in his vineyard. Remember what John the Baptist's invitation was all about in Matthew chapter 3:8, where all the people came to be baptized because they repented. The second son represents Israel's religious leaders who said they would serve God in the vineyard of the Lord, who John the Baptist called vipers because they upheld the laws and regulations but refused to uplift the people of God with mercy, justice, and forgiveness. These people look to the Torah instead of looking up to God who offers them their life. So this is God's way of working. God keeps forgiving, having mercy, and showering his justice to you and to me and to everyone who humbles themselves before the Lord. Because God is love. You may say, still, I don't understand why God is so generous to them. So my third point is, when asked what were the 3 most important Christian virtues, Saint Augustine of Hippo replied, humility, humility, humility. In today's second reading, Paul represents Jesus as the model of humility. He writes, in humility, value others above yourself, not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interest of others. Humility is our life's true path. then we shall see God. In 1 Peter chapter 5 verses 6 and 7, it says, "Humble yourself, therefore, under God's mighty hand. Then He will lift you up." Don't look to the church leaders to lift you up. God will Himself lift you up in due time and cast out all your anxieties on God alone, because God cares for you. So if you are still one of those who are asking why God is so generous, so my answer to you is because God is. Amen. Amen. Amen.